Market to Market is everywhere you are. Subscribe to Market on YouTube, find us on the PBS video app to stream on demand, and add our 3 podcasts on your favorite podcasting app.
Welcome into the Friday, June 3, 2022 Market Plus. Joining us again, Dan Hueber. Nice coat, by the way.
Thank you. Yours as well. Thanks.
Yeah, glad we coordinated that this week.
I should have called it a little earlier, but that's
all right.
Yeah.
I almost went with the red tie. You had some windshield time today.
Yes, a few hundred miles.
That route from West Chicago to Central Iowa.
Correct.
I made some of that trip over the weekend, and just on the Iowa side. What did you see?
You know, as a whole, I have very few fields that I could tell were unplanted. A few corn stalks here and there. I'm assuming they went to beans or going to beans. Very little unplanted. Crops are small. There's no two ways about it. Granted, we're beginning of June. It's not unusual to see things knee high anymore when it comes to corn. But the population looked good. You didn't see a lot of bare spots. Didn't really see any wet spots throughout that region, which would make sense since I don't think anybody across that area has had excessive rains for the most part. So,
but conversely, we're going to run into a weather pattern this week. I mean, there's not a lot of heat units in that forecast.
No,
What's that going to do?
True. Well, I'd say maybe that does allow the plant to get a little more root system going. It could help it out in that respect. But it's right. The next few days or next 10 days, I guess, it's going to be a little on the cooler side. But here again, this is still early June. So if you said that in July, maybe we'd be a little more concerned. So
and I know I'm asking you agronomy questions.
Sure,
I just like to make you put your agronomy hat on.
My green thumb on. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. I'm going to ask you a Twitter question now. This one comes from Antonio in Portugal. Yes, Portugal, the country. He wants to know, are the corn acres coming down?
We could see some reduction, and we spoke of it just a little bit earlier. It's hard to believe we won't lose some of the acreage up in the northern plains. North Dakota, northern Minnesota, some of South Dakota has certainly had their share of problems and continues to have their share of problems, and we've pushed beyond the dates for crop insurance. So, but on the same breath, I think in the I states, we probably saw a little more corn go in the ground than was anticipated. If they had the supplies, in fact, several people we've spoken to have said just that. So, you can't exactly say how that's going to wash out, but I think it's going to partially compensate for that.
I assume we'll see some private estimates. There's some out there already.
Well, I haven't seen anything for the upcoming report, but of course, probably a week, 10 days before we get to the June 30th report, we'll start seeing some numbers float around. So and again, I would suspect that the majority of them are going to try to trim the corn back a little bit. And of course, corn was that was the, I don't want to call it a bullish number, but that was the surprise number on the March planting prospective planning. So we'll see how that washes out.
I do have a USDA question in a minute,
Okay.
but I'm going to go in order this week. I always go out of order and mess things up. Aaron in Ocheyedan, Iowa, a frequent contributor to the program. We thank you, Aaron. And if you're not following him on Instagram, by the way, some great pictures up there. He says, in the battle for the price action in corn and wheat, could fundamentals still take us to new highs in June? Or are you in the camp of technicals, that the technicals have already won?
I guess first and foremost, yes, I'm in the camp of technicals, and I tend to lean that way because I think it keeps a little clearer perspective. Technicals are unemotional, or should be unemotional, so you don't worry about what's burning up or what's flooding out and those type of things. Certainly if there was a weather issue over the next 30 days, yes, that could send prices skyrocketing again. That doesn't seem to look, at least right now, at least that's in the cards. So I think technically it says we've peaked in both of those markets. Rebounds certainly, but pushes in the new highs, it seems very unlikely.
All right, now I'm going to go to the USDA question. I kind of asked you about this in your Word of Gov comment.
Yes.
Scott in Augusta, Wisconsin, he says, do you think the USDA is too high on their bean ending stocks?
I think it could be reduced some. I think they will probably push usage, exports, and maybe even the crush up a little bit on this next report. But, we're not talking about 50, 70 million bushels. It could be 10 or 20 million bushels. So,
however, I'm going to go to what you said during the discussion that we had. When you're like, this report that's coming up next week is not usually one that gives us big news.
Right.
However, in the last 2 to 3 years, we've seen big surprises when we least expected them.
The USDA
Predict the black swan for me, Dan, right now.
They're never shy about shocking us any longer. It always used to be that they would kind of spoon feed information in, not try to get the markets upset. And boy, now you get both barrels whenever they want to make a change on something. Certainly it could happen, but it would be gauging what's around what we know about what's going on in the world right now. Gauging with what we know about the domestic crops, the usage to date. Look at we get a check on weekly export sales. We get a check on exports themselves. We get a check monthly on crush. It's going to be difficult to make a real big shocker there, at least until they make acreage adjustments and yield adjustments. So
we'll see how that shakes out.
All right.
A couple more here. This one's similar. Bradley in Nebraska wants to know. With the high commodity prices, will farmers in Minnesota and North Dakota mud in the corn, spring wheat, and bean crop after recent rains, or they're just going to take the prevent plant and walk away?
Granted, it's going to be all the above. It's going to be a farm-by-farm situation. Some of them, I think, just physically will not be able to mud it in. There's just going to be too many ponds, too much moisture up there, too late in the season. But I think if people have the availability, it looks like there is a little window open for some opportunity of planting here in the next week. If they have supplies available and think they can get a crop in, they're going to do it.
So how do the computers read that information? How do they factor in acres that aren't necessarily like other states, but are a huge number of acres?
And of course, everybody has their own interpretation of that. Who is running those type of models? So they'll probably do a what-if scenario, 3 different scenarios, worst, average, best, type of thing, and try to come up with the best case estimate at that point. So, which of course, you have to continue just to adjust that over time with how the yields work. The other question, have people really cut back on fertilizer this year because of the high price? And will that potentially impact yield? So, there's that. That is one of the reasons I don't think it's time to really give up on markets at this point, because there's just too much risk, too much uncertainty over the next 30 to 45 days. But, without an issue, it's going to be tough to get prices to move any higher than they have.
Well, prices. We have one more question on prices.
Okay.
This one's from Craig in Adams, Minnesota. How much higher do you see the fuel markets going?
Boy, that's probably a more difficult question. And again, how long do we drag on the issues with Russia? So and which is really what has accelerated this fuel to the last step this year. So I would like to think we've probably factored the majority of that in. That we probably are already flirting around with what should be the highs in there. Now, granted, part of the concern this week was, if China is coming out of lockdown, are they going to become a greater user again? Of course, one thing about it is China is one of the countries who will buy Russian fuel at this point in time. So, it's maybe going to be the other people that have to start hunting and picking to find where they want to get available supply.
And they're not one to turn away from a good deal.
Oh, absolutely.
And if it's
absolutely.
at a discount. And OPEC this week, we didn't mention it heavily in the program. The OPEC plus countries said they're going to have a 50% increase.
Right.
But the traders are doubting their words.
I really think it came to the point. Granted, there's not a great relationship between the Biden administration and the Saudis. And I think they've been, for the most part, thumbing their nose at us, saying, we'll bump it up when we want to. We're kind of friendly with Russia, so we're going to appease them at this point in time. But I think it's reached the point where the Saudis want some things from us, so they're willing to make some concessions to make that happen.
Interesting things. I did think I think I misquoted you on something you said this week, but this was the one. We need to talk about beans. You had a comment today.
Okay.
The Undertaker looks like has pounded the final nail in the bean bull coffin. Why'd you say that?
I think I was saying it looked as if they did on Tuesday.
Okay.
The market reached up against highs, big reversal to the downside. Looked like the party was over, but then we didn't follow through on that. So that would that nail got pulled back out, at least temporarily here. But on the same token, we really couldn't go anywhere from there either. So I think we're just at that equilibrium point where either we're going to get some bullish news that takes us into new highs, or the weather stays great and the demand stays slack and the party's over.
Let me see if I have this right. We're going to take a whole lot of positive news to feed the bulls. Otherwise, we may have hit the high watermark for a while, the extremes.
Right.
Okay.
And when you say for a while, that's probably years. So,
Ooh.
yeah.
All right. Dan Hueber, good to see you. Thanks for making the trip.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
All right, that's Dan Hueber. Thank you, Dan. Next week, we're going to talk about the drought, and we're going to have a reality check on agriculture there in the West. And Ted Seifert will sit right over there and join us to break down the commodity markets. Thank you so very much for watching, and have yourself a great week.